Last betrayal. The rain had just begun to fall that evening, the kind that tapped softly on rooftops like it had secrets to tell. In the quiet town of Arimo, two boys once walked the same dusty road to school every morning, barefoot, hopeful, and bound by a friendship that everyone believed would last forever. Their names were Richard and Michiel. Richard was the pride of every teacher who crossed his path, brilliant, disciplined, and driven in a way that made adults nod in approval. He always sat in the front row, his books neatly arranged, his handwriting so perfect it looked printed. Teachers often said, "This one will go far, just watch." Michiel, on the other hand, lived in the back row, literally and figuratively. School was never his strength. He struggled with reading, avoided assignments, and spent more time sketching dreams in the sand than writing notes in class. Yet there was something about him, something bold, something restless. While Richard followed the rules, Michiel questioned them. Despite their differences, they were inseparable. Every afternoon after school, they would sit under the old mango tree behind the classroom block. Richard would revise his notes while Michiel talked endlessly about making it big someday. "One day, Richard," Michiel would say, throwing a stone into the distance, "I will be so rich that money will beg me to spend it." Richard would laugh. "You better start by passing your exams first." Michiel would grin. Books are not the only way to succeed. At the time, it sounded like an excuse. No one took him seriously. Years passed, and life, as it always does, began to draw lines between them. Richard graduated at the top of his class. Scholarships followed. University doors opened wide for him. He studied economics, worked tirelessly, and graduated with honors again. Everyone expected his life to follow a straight line: success, stability, prosperity. Michiel barely made it through secondary school. After failing his final exams twice, he dropped out. For a while, he disappeared from the town entirely. Rumors spread. Some said he went to Lagos, others claimed he was involved in shady dealings. No one really knew. Time moved. 10 years later, the dusty road in Aremo had been paved. New buildings stood where old ones once leaned, but not all stories aged the same way. Richard returned to town not as the success people had predicted, but as a man worn down by life. Despite his degrees, despite his brilliance, jobs never seemed to stay. He moved from one contract role to another, always almost succeeding, but never quite breaking through. Bills piled up. Opportunities slipped through his fingers like water. He kept telling himself it was just bad luck. But bad luck has a way of becoming a pattern. One afternoon, as he walked through the town market, lost in thought and worry, a convoy of black SUVs pulled to a sudden stop. People scattered, heads turned. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Who is that? Is it a politician?" No. I heard it's someone from this town." The doors opened slowly, and then Richard saw him. Michiel, but not the Michiel he remembered. This Michiel stepped out in Agbada, gold watch gleaming under the sun, confidence dripping from every movement. Men rushed to greet him. Women stared in awe. Even elders bowed slightly as he passed. For a moment, Richard thought he was mistaken, but then Michiel's eyes met his, and he smiled. "Richard, my brother." The words were warm, but something about the tone felt different, unfamiliar. They embraced, but it wasn't the same. The years had done something to them, reshaped them in ways neither could fully understand. "How have you been?" Michiel asked. Richard hesitated. "I've been managing." Michiel nodded slowly as if he already knew. "Come with me," he said. "We have a lot to talk about." That evening, Richard found himself sitting in a mansion he never imagined Michiel could own. Marble floors, glass walls, expensive art. Everything screamed wealth. But beneath the luxury, there was something else. A tension, a silence that felt too heavy. "How did you do it?" Richard finally asked. Michiel leaned back, swirling a glass of drink in his hand. "Life," he said simply. I learned early that the world doesn't reward intelligence, it rewards boldness. Richard frowned. What does that even mean? McKeel smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. It means I stopped waiting for permission. Days turned into weeks, and McKeel insisted Richard stay with him. He offered help, connections, opportunities, a fresh start. At first, Richard was grateful, but slowly things began to feel off. Phone calls in the middle of the night, conversations that stopped the moment Richard entered the room, visitors who looked more dangerous than respectable, and then came the offer. I have a deal, McKeel said one night, something that could change your life. Richard listened carefully. It's simple, McKeel continued. I need someone I trust, someone smart, someone who understands numbers. What kind of deal? Richard asked. McKeel paused. Import business, he said eventually. Big money, fast money. Richard's instincts stirred. Is it legal? McKeel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he smiled. Does it matter? That was the moment everything shifted. Richard should have walked away. He knew it. But desperation has a voice, and it speaks louder than caution. He agreed. At first, everything seemed fine. The money came in quickly, more than Richard had ever seen in his life. He convinced himself it was just business, nothing more. Until the truth revealed itself. It wasn't importation, it was money laundering. Illicit funds moving through shell companies, fake transactions, hidden accounts. And Richard, without fully realizing it, had become the brain behind the operation. When he confronted McKeel, the air between them changed. You used me, Richard said, his voice shaking. McKeel didn't deny it. I gave you a chance, he replied coldly. The world didn't. This is wrong, Richard insisted. We could go to jail. McKeel laughed, a low, dangerous sound. Jail? He said. You still think this game has rules? And then came the twist that shattered everything. Richard, the accounts, they're all in your name. Silence. Heavy. Crushing silence. Richard's heart dropped. You said you trusted me, McKeel continued. So I trusted you with everything. It was betrayal, calculated, precise, and irreversible. By the time authorities began investigating, the evidence pointed in one direction. Richard, the brilliant boy, the one everyone believed would succeed. He was arrested. The town whispered again, but this time not in admiration. Can you believe it? He always looked so responsible. People are not who they seem. McKeel? He disappeared, just like he had years ago. No trace, no arrest, nothing. Months later, as Richard sat in a prison cell, replaying every decision, every warning sign he ignored, he finally understood something McKeel had learned long ago. The world doesn't always reward the good, and success, when built on greed, always demands a price. But the final twist? It came quietly. A letter, no name, no return address. Inside, just a single line. You were never supposed to win. I just needed someone to lose. And in that moment, Richard realized the truth. McKeel's success was never about ambition. It was about survival. And in his world, loyalty was just another currency to spend. The rain fell again that night, just like it did years ago. Only this time, it wasn't gentle. It was heavy, relentless. As if the sky itself was mourning what their friendship had become. Two boys, one dream, and a story that ended not in success, but in betrayal.